Hey everyone, so this is day 7 of Mageblood from scratch. So today was a pretty simple day. Now, I am recording this the next day. I didn't really have much time at night to record this quickly, so I'm sorry that it's a little bit later, but we're finishing it out. And today, the day this comes out, I won't be playing the game. My GPU actually came in last night while I was streaming, and I'm taking the day off to record some videos and to clean my PC and install it. So I'm sorry, there's going to be a 1-day delay between this episode and the next one. So in terms of what we did say, it pretty much was exactly the same thing. I kept doing more betrayals. Today was a little bit of a weird day because I didn't really just sit there and full focus on money the whole time. We were actually doing quite a lot of other just fun stuff as a community. I did a gamble of 500 Viridian jewels to see how that went with my own money, not the series money, and there'll be a video on that. And we just had some fun with some other stuff and did more gambles and just had a good time as a community. So it wasn't a full day of making money, but it still ended up being very good, considering I don't think I spent more than 4 hours out of my 8-hour stream actually sitting there and making money. If we want to quickly look at my stash, so I started the day with, I believe, 28 div. I do not remember what my money was in the other episode, but I did spend pretty much everything I had on upgrades. So today I made 41 div and 200 chaos. This was all profit from today, since at the start of today's stream, I spent virtually every single div I had on upgrades for this build. So we basically started from 0 div. Today, making 40 div and about 4 or 5 hours of actual farming was not that bad. That means we were holding near 10-ish div an hour. I don't know if it was exactly 4 hours, but I did waste quite a lot of time on today's stream. So let's just say anywhere between 8 to 10 div between all the time I actually had to farm. And this is all done through betrayal, just as I mentioned yesterday. If you want like a very quick guide on betrayal or my explanation of what I was doing with betrayal, if you want to watch yesterday's episode, I gave a very quick like 5-minute breakdown of it. And I will try to have a video out on how this worked later today or tomorrow. I'm not going to rush it since I do have quite a lot of other stuff to do. I'm a little bit busy right now, but I'll try to get out within a day or two at most. So I know quite a lot of people asked me to put some background footage over me just sitting here and talking, and I'm actually going to put some this time since I do have some background footage on hand. The reason I haven't really had it in the previous episode was because my GPU is basically on its last legs. It has been crashing randomly. Either it can happen 3 times within 30 minutes, or I can go a few hours with no crashes, or I've even gone a full stream with no crashes, which is amazing. But most of the time, my GPU just consistently keeps crashing. And by that, what I mean is it is resetting itself, which is causing OBS to stop working and closing itself, because while I'm streaming, it didn't detect any frames to encode for 5 seconds while my GPU reloads and thus terminates itself, which is very annoying, which is why if you look at my VODs on Twitch, some days I'll have 1 or 2 VODs for the same day, and some days I'll have 5. Every time I crash, it effectively starts a new VOD, and it's very annoying. If I even attempt to record while streaming, my OBS basically crashes in 5 seconds. So I've not been able to gather any footage. I've not been able to get any fun clips or anything for the series up until now. Today is going to be the last day of that since I'll be installing my GPU. That's why I'm taking the day off. And I also need to clean my computer. I haven't really opened it about a year or 2. So it's time for dusting as well, even though there's not much dust in it. So hopefully moving forward, I'll have at least some background footage or some clips or whatever else I can gather from our adventures doing this. Let's go over what I did today in terms of upgrades. As I mentioned, I spent almost 30 div on upgrades. So the main thing was, in my Death's Oath, I got every single best in slot jewel. So I got Awakened Void Manipulation and Swift Affliction. Void Manipulation was not good because the biggest draw of Awakened Void is +1 chaos, and that doesn't do anything here, but it was still a few percent. Swift Affliction was about 7%. Life Tap, we got 2120 Life Tap, which was another few percent. I got 2120 Conk Effect. Now I was thinking about getting Awakened AoE instead of Conk Effect, but the difference was kind of small, but the DPS loss was pretty major, so I decided not to. For me, just Conk Effect on its own is good enough. I have Less Duration, and I have Efficacy both at 2120 and Less Duration. The quality doesn't matter, and none of the all qualities do anything. All this in total was about 4 div, and it pretty much doubled the damage Death's Oath does. It makes clearing really, really comfy now. I also got a pair of Apothecary gloves. Now, people ask me why I decided to swap Asenaths. Well, for the content I was doing, since we're basically just running through maps, I can tell you I've barely noticed a difference between Asenaths and Apothecaries. And I've been told Astronauts is kind of pointless unless you're running Herald of Ash to create massive chain explosions. But if I was running Herald of Ash, Astronauts would have been a lot better. This is just a pair of Elder Warlord Apothecary gloves that have Warlord damage over time and Elder Chaos damage over time squished together with Life Crafted and Strength. Nice thing about these gloves is they have an open suffix. Later down the line, I can eventually fit in a Aspect of Spider for even more DPS on here. I believe these were about 4 div or so, which was pretty good considering they had an open suffix. It's very difficult to get a good pair of these with that isn't an absurd amount of price. And the only thing I would change about these would be the physical damage to attacks would potentially be something a little bit more useful like armor or ES. But outside of that, there really isn't anything else you can do to these gloves. That's about it for the gear. The biggest differences came in my passive tree. So I went and got boosted from 94 to 96 and actually almost leveled to 97 on my own doing Betrayal. But with those 2 extra passive points, I was able to drop Growth and Decay. I was able to drop all the connecting points over here. And instead I was able to path around the outside and get a second cluster jewel set up. I did have to drop a bit of life here. I was able to finally drop these 2 points, which are kind of useless, and we have a much better tree. So this cluster is the same thing as the other one. It's simply just Unholy Grace, Unwaveringly Evil, Wicked Pal. And the nice thing I got here was chaos resistance. That 4% chaos resistance on this node and this node is actually enough chaos resistance to cap me. So because of that, I do not need to take the chaos resistance mastery here. And I got 20% increased effect of Withered instead, which is 7% DPS increase. More thing to mention was I also dropped Whispers of Doom because again, I'm not running Astronauts anymore, which gave me quite a lot of extra points to work with. My next upgrade would eventually be to get a Sanctified Relic and to put Eldritch Battery on it to save 2 passive points. That'll come later down the line once I do sync them. As for the cluster jewels in here, they are the same as the other ones. This is Unwaveringly Evil, Flow of Life, and you can either get Unwaveringly Evil or you can get Wicked Pal. They can both roll here. You could technically get both of them together, but personally, I just want Flow of Life. Unwaveringly Evil / Pal are about a 3% DPS increase, while this is about 2.2, so it's only 1% less, but I get life and regen. And I've noticed this build kind of struggles on bosses, simply because I don't have a consistent way to heal. Eventually, I want to fit a Vitality in here, which should help a lot, but currently the 0.6 life per second on these 4 nodes is all I really have, and I'd like to have a little bit more, and the 4% life is good too. I also found like the absolute nuts when it comes to cluster jewels. So this is a Flow of Life Unwaveringly Evil with Dexterity, which I needed. That was corrupted with Corrupted Blood on it. I was able to snipe this for 6 div. In my opinion, this jewel is probably worth 20-25 div, if not more. All res is very good, and dexterity, especially on this cluster, especially for this build, which is very dex starved, I have the exact amount of dexterity I need, is incredible. This is everything I could ask for on a jewel, and yeah, for 6 div, this is an absolute steal, so I'm very happy with that. In terms of final upgrades for my passive tree and what I do moving forward with my last 6 points, I would pick up this jewel socket here, and then I would remove this, since this is just damage over time life, and this, since this is just again damage over time life. And with 3 jewel sockets open, I would get Grand Spectrums. I would get minimum frenzy charges, I would get minimum endurance charges, and maximum life. That combination together is unfortunately 60 div, and I think I kind of want to save for it, since I do have 41 div already. It'd be pretty easy to get the last 60 div, and with 3 endurance charges, 3 frenzy charges, and a bit of life, this build in terms of tree would basically be complete. I'd have 2 more points. I'm not exactly sure where I'd put that right now, but I'm sure I could find a decent use for 2 more points, probably just a life note here and a life note here or something like that. That is really all there is for today. I don't really have too much to say because again, we just did Betrayal all day and I made a few upgrades. Unfortunately, don't have too much to say, but tomorrow should be more interesting. I don't know if I want to actually go and get those jewels or if I just want to save. My current plan is to go and do winged scarab farming as my next strategy, and we're only 30 more div off of being able to afford a sextant to be able to start. So I'm gonna have to think about it and decide if I want to stick to Betrayal for a much longer time or if I want to do winged. People have asked me how close we are to Mageblood. I feel at the rate we're going, we'll probably have a Mageblood in the next 3 to 4 days at most. If I can sit here for a full 8 hours and just farm, I should be able to make anywhere between 80 to 100 div a day. So we only should have 3-4 more days to go until Mageblood. One thing I want to talk about is I'm kind of sad the way the series went, but I'm also happy because I'm playing CA now. But I'm sad that I didn't realize how bad Cyclone was, and I'm kind of sad that I basically wasted 5 days. Realistically looking at it, we're currently maybe on like day 3 in terms of progression, and for me it just feels a little bit bad saying this series is probably going to go to day 11, day 12, just because I would have preferred to finish it in the first week. It would have felt really good for me to be able to say, hey, I completed the series in 1 week, but this is my first time doing it. I learned I put a little bit too many restrictions on myself. I think for next time I'm gonna remove a lot of these restrictions restrictions. And instead of being like, no playing a meta build, no doing the really good strategies that make it too easy, no whatever, I think we'll be a lot less restrictive and just try to show people how, if you're someone who's just playing a meta build right now, and if you just want to see how you can take that meta build and just make a lot of money, we'll just do that for next season. We'll see. But I think for my first time doing this challenge, I'm pretty happy with the journey we had. Just a little bit sad that it's going to take 11 to 12 days, but it is what it is. It's still very fun and people really do seem to enjoy it. All right, team, that's everything for today. I'll see you guys in a day for day 8. And hopefully we should either have a new strategy by that point, or we'll have a very sick build. And hopefully no more crashes and some better background footage and some clips. I appreciate you guys being on this journey with me, and I will see you guys next time.